Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. Just touching back on the microphone, there are going to be a number of people speaking here tonight. So when you're talking, hold the phone like a microphone. I will hand it to you and we will share. This is our 2023 Winter Trail Ambassador Training meeting. And as I briefly mentioned to you all, we do have a lot of folks that come on through the season, are interested, couldn't make it here tonight, and want to hear this training. So if you ask a question, I'm going to repeat it into here and then I'll answer it. Same with anyone else that might be speaking. If a question is asked to you, please just repeat the question into the phone so we can record it and share that information with others that come on board throughout the season as our trail ambassadors. So that's my quick little asterisk and ask here to bear with me and help bring as many people into this program as we can. So real quick, my name is Ernest Sager. I am the Executive Director of the Vail Valley Mountain Trails Alliance. We have a number of other staff people in the room here that you'll hear from Molly and Nikki as part of this, and a number of our land managers and partners and supporters here. So we'll do some introductions for each person's section here, but wanted to make a quick statement with that. So tonight, welcome, our program history and the impact we've seen through this program, as well as some why from Jen with the Forest Service on wildlife biology, why these seasonal closures exist, and why we're trying to educate our community on the importance of these. Our Respect the Wild campaign, Nikki's going to speak to a little bit. You see some of the posters up around the room. It's been an awesome, fun campaign that we're going into our first full season with it this year, which we're really excited about, and we have some good plans for. We'll hear from some of our land managers talking about each of the properties or areas or trails that they manage and why those closures exist and what the rules and policies are for those trails in those areas, because they're all a little bit different, to be honest with you, depending if it's Forest Service or Eagle County Open Space or Town of Eagle or Bureau of Land Management. They all have a little bit different rules and policies, but the overall goal for all of them is to protect our wildlife through these closures and ensure that we can still have access to those trails in the right times of the year, and also be able to know where we can go recreate during this time of the year. So we'll hear from everyone. Molly will come up and go through some exciting updates on the program. You can join her out on the trail. Same with Amanda from the Forest Service. They're both going to be out there hours and hours every week, and someone to go out and hang out with, have some fun with, get some stuff with. I'll let Molly talk about that. But how you schedule, how you submit a log, some of the program expectations and basics, and then we'll hear from Forest Service on just safety and awareness and public engagement on how to speak to the public and talk to them and make sure that it's a fun conversation and a positive conversation is always the goal, because we're here to educate. We're not here to enforce. VVMTA trail ambassadors, we're here to help people understand why these closures exist and why they need to leash their dog or potentially go recreate somewhere else. So questions and wrap up at the end, but I'll open to questions. There's the small room here. Just raise your hand, ask a question on any slide. Fire from the hip. So good with that as well. So diving in. Oh. I mentioned a lot of these land managers here, but there are some that are not in the room and some of our partners that I want to recognize real quick. The CPW was not able to make it tonight. We have Brian with the Town of Eagle here, Avon, Minturn, Town of Vail, as well as National Forest Foundation, which is a big funder of this program, as well as our Adopt a Trail program, and for some of our other initiatives with our trail conservation crew, and a huge supporter. And if you're not familiar with what National Forest Foundation is, it's they have the White River Ski Conservation Fund. How many people in this room have a ski pass? Did you choose to donate $1 to the National Forest Foundation when you bought a ski pass? Your dollar is going back into this program right here. So thank you to the NFF and Vail Resorts for that. Eagle Ranch Wildlife Committee is a big supporter of this program as well, and the Respect the Wild campaign. If you're not familiar with the Eagle Ranch Wildlife Committee, it's a 1% transfer tax of every sale in Eagle Ranch community homeowners association goes back to this wildlife fund that those funds go into bigger projects. They put a couple $100,000, I believe it was, in the Brush Creek Valley Ranch and Open Space Conservation purchase, as well as some money into our Respect the Wild campaign and money towards projects that help protect and mitigate our impacts on wildlife. So it's a really great tax 1% program and transfer fees. And then Hardscrabble Trails Coalition, our partner down here in Eagle, Laura here, is on the HTC's board. So thanks for being here. Just partners that we want to recognize real quick. So thank you to everyone listed there. A little bit of background on this program, if you're not familiar with it. It really all started with the Evercrest Trail. And when we were working with the Forest Service on the proposal for the Evercrest Trail between Minturn and Eagle Vale, we learned a lot ourselves as an organization, why seasonal closures existed, because a majority of us, and I would say a majority of our community, didn't understand why closures existed. They thought it was for mud because the majority of them were in the spring or in the winter. And there was, no, don't go on muddy trails. So we have seasonal closures, and that was not the case. It's not the case at all. It's to protect mainly elk and deer, which is where we're going to these trailheads to advocate for and educate on why these closures exist, to protect those wildlife. And during that process, the Colorado Parks and Wildlife educated us and informed us on some struggles with the health of the elk and deer. And we said, okay, we're surprised and grateful that we understood this. And we said, with this trail proposal and project, we will start this program to help educate people. Majority of trailheads that existed throughout the valley at that time had a lacking of fence or signage or gates or information on why the closures existed. And with the Evercrest Trail approval, this program was born, really. And gates were installed and signage was installed, and entire education and outreach throughout our community began. And it's my opinion, and I'll show some stats here that lead to that, is the belief that it's working, that it's helping at least. What our goal is to, as a VVMTA, as a trails organization, is to educate our trail users and to help them understand why these closures exist. And that's our part. And reduce those violations, reduce the impacts, keep your dog on leash, really mitigate what you're doing out there and how it may impact these wildlife. We're not wildlife biologists, so we're not doing anything for the wildlife per se. We're by doing our part of educating trail users from what we understand from the CPW, from the Forest Service, that by less violations, it means healthier wildlife populations. It should lead to that. So we're doing our part from a trail user education standpoint on this. Jen will get a little bit more into the wildlife biology, but it's critical winter and spring habitat, it's migration corridors, it's calving production areas. And those are all winter right now through April and into July 1st on a number of these closures for calving. So I'm going to go through a fun little exercise that is related to this to kind of paint a picture, a story of what I just said there. So that's our background of how this program was actually born. And where this program is going is a quick little update on it. This year, to be honest, when we launched it, it was the Eagle County Trail Ambassador Program. And then we went to the Wildlife Trail Ambassador Program. And now we're going back to Trail Ambassador Program. And the reason for that is we are absolutely going to focus on seasonal trail closure education information during the closure season of December 1 generally, or November 23 until end of June-ish. But we're going to extend the program because we see the need out there to continue to educate the public and users on leave no trace principles, trail etiquette, responsible recreation. And we've heard it from our volunteers that they would like to do this. And we feel that we have a good core, strong group of volunteers to really help grow this program beyond the seasonal trail closure season. So more info on that to come, but we're not really rolling that out until, call it, the springtime. So we have some time to plan it out, really, because we're just really touching tip of the iceberg on that one. So that's why you may see just trail ambassador as opposed to, if you're familiar, wildlife trail ambassador. So I wanted to touch on that in the beginning real quick. So this is kind of a few of the impact over the year slides I wanted to touch on. This launched in 2018 with the Evercoast Trail. Almost 1,300 plus hours so far, 945 plus shifts, 25 plus trailheads. We've seen from the game camera stats we've had 80 to 90% decrease over those years. Is it perfect data and science? No, because we've had cameras stolen. There's mud rubbed on camera images sometimes. There's a number of things that affect some of that data, but generally you can pull that data and see that the violations have significantly decreased. And this gives that example of in 2017 on the North Trail, I think it was the Garmisch section, right? Yeah, and there was a camera put up for a month. And in that 1 month period during the April to June closure season in Vail, there was 212 violations in 2017. That was before this program. That was before the new signage, the gates, the fencing, the outreach and education throughout the community. Every year we've seen that go down. And you see some asterisks here, like we didn't have a camera there in 2018. The camera was stolen in 2020. But from the years we do have data, it's significantly decreased. And it shows with the more volunteers we have out there, the more outreach we have, the less violations we have. And this is what leads me to believe that this is working. We're doing our part as a trail advocacy and trail users organization to help minimize those violations, which again should lead to healthier wildlife during these critical times of the year. So we're going to continue to do that. And our goal is always zero. Are we going to get there? I hope so. I don't know. There's always one bad apple out there, right? But that kind of speaks to it. And this is hard to see, I know, but I wanted to show these are all the cameras we have from we only had 4 or 5 in 2019 to now. I think we have 13 cameras, game cameras throughout these seasonal closures. And we use them for a number of reasons. To one, understand violations. That's what we're trying to understand. And two is to help inform the volunteers and the trail ambassadors and the people that are out there doing the education and say, hey, Nob Hill is getting a lot of violations. Can volunteers, if you're going to go out, please go to Nob Hill. We see a lot of people going out and violating that closure, or there's a lot of wildlife in that area. Can you go out and make sure that those wildlife in that area on that trail are being protected? And, you know, a number of things I want to point out, you know, last year, total across the board, all violations, all 13 cameras, there was 151 violations that we counted on the cameras that we had out there. About less than 1% were mountain bikers, 97% were hikers and dog walkers. They're always the ones that are trail runners that's grouped into that, are normally who we see out there violating these closures. It changed a little bit in 23, but you know, we had 110, 151 was 2022, sorry, 110 was this past 2023. So we did see the number go down again year over year. 110 still a good amount of violations, and we want to continue to get that down. But showing across the board when they're going, where they're going, what type of user. We're trying to get these patterns and understand this data of how we can best approach the user groups and the people that are doing this. We can generally more often tell if these are people that live right next to the trailhead or if it's visitors. And our ambassadors out there having conversations, understanding who these people are and where they're coming from, which is super helpful for us to then tie back to this game camera information to help us inform and drive this program to be as impactful as possible. So that's over the years there. And then now I'm going to pass it off to our first speaker here. Jen. So you should be good to go here. Here's your microphone.
Thanks.
Should just sit here.